Hello, travelers. Welcome back to Show and Tell with Reach the World. For over 20 years, Reach the World has used virtual exchange to inspire youth to become curious, confident global citizens. My name is Tim, and as part of Reach the World's efforts to support educators and families during the COVID-19 epidemic, we are sharing free live stream show and tell events with members of our global community. You can find an updated calendar of live stream events and much, much more at athome.reachtheworld.org. For today's show and tell, I'm very excited to welcome Katie Meyer. Katie, in addition to being a traveler, is a strong proponent of global education and serves as co-chair of Reach the World's advisory board. She has some things to show us from her trip to Israel. And to our live stream viewers, please be sure to let us know you're here and share any questions for Katie using the YouTube chat bar, likely on the right-hand side of your screen. We're going to get to as many questions as we can. And that said, and without any further ado, welcome to Show and Tell, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. We want to know, we're going to dive right into your recent trip to Israel. So take it away.
Perfect. Can you guys all see my slide okay?
Yeah, it looks great.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me today. As Tim mentioned, my name is Katie Meyer. And I'm going to be sharing my story of a week I spent in Israel last year. And then at the end, I'll show you the artifact that I brought back with me. So last year, I was part of a cohort at Cornell University in a graduate program studying business. And we were going to go on a global trek as part of the program. And so we got to choose between, I think, about 3 to 4 places to go on this global 1-week trek, and I chose Israel. So we started our journey in Tel Aviv, and the first place we went on Sunday was Hebrew University and outside of Jerusalem. So you can see myself as well as 18 other members of my cohort there outside of Hebrew University. And a fun fact, my husband, Nick, was also in the Cornell program with me, and so he got to go as well. So you'll see him later on in the photos. So the first place after we went to Hebrew University we went to is Jerusalem. But before we jump into Jerusalem, I kind of wanted to just level set and just share a little bit about where Israel is in the state of the Middle East and where is it located kind of in the world view. So you can see here that it is a very, very small country in the Middle East. It actually only takes up 1% of the Middle East based on landmass. And, you know, if you're anywhere near the Midwest, it's roughly half the size of Lake Michigan, which is really, you know, all it means is we were able to see a lot in just 1 week. So kind of zooming in on Israel itself, I just wanted to call out a few places that we were able to go and check out. So we flew into Tel Aviv, and then that first place we went to was Jerusalem, which I'll get to in just a moment. After that, we went up to Nazareth, and then over to the Sea of Galilee. And then final stop was Masada and the Dead Sea. So we were really fortunate as being a part of this Cornell program to have a dedicated tour guide that would kind of bus us out to all of these different destinations every day, which was really cool. And we visited some very unique businesses as well, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But Israel is a very, very unique and special place. It has 2 official languages, Hebrew and Arabic. So all of the street signs and signs everywhere that you would see would always be in Hebrew, then Arabic, then English. So very large signage, if you will. And what also is very special about Israel is it's the birthplace of 2 major world religions, Judaism and Christianity. So going into our first destination is Jerusalem, and it's actually where I picked up my artifact, which I'll show at the end. But we started in the Old City. The Old City of Jerusalem is the oldest part of the city, and it dates back to 1535. And it contains some of the most important places for 3 major religions. So you can kind of see here on the map, we've got shrines for the Jewish religion, Christian, and Muslim. And what's really unique about the Old City is it's divided into 4 separate quarters. So we've got a Christian quarter, a Muslim quarter, Armenian quarter, and the Jewish quarter. And what's really, really cool about all of these different quarters is that they all have their own distinct look and feel. So even things like what kind of food they offer and sell, as well as different textiles and products, it all varies very much in each of the quarters. So I've attached a few photos here as we move forward. See, there we go, of the old city. And so depending on kind of what you can see in each photo, I'm depicting, oops, let me go back. Sorry about that. Depicting photos from the Jewish quarter, the Christian quarter, the Muslim quarter, and then at the bottom right, you can kind of see the Western Wall, which is a very important religious site for the Jewish community. So our next stop on the trip was Tel Aviv. So it's where we landed and where we came back to. And as I mentioned, I was there with a school program. And part of the program was to visit very unique businesses and just hear about how business is evolving in Tel Aviv and in Israel. So one of the first places we went to was called Banco Hapolim, which is the largest bank in Israel, situated right in downtown Tel Aviv in a big skyrise building. They were very, very nice and just really talked us through how innovation and change is affecting their business and banking in Israel. Another one of the very unique places we went to visit was a kibbutz outside of Tel Aviv that focused on sustainable farming and specifically sustainable protein. And really, other than the plants you're seeing here, what was very interesting is that they were farming grasshoppers to use as sustainable protein. So some of my brave classmates you can see next to me actually tried some of the product or the grasshoppers. I did not take part in that, but it was very, very interesting to hear how they're thinking about, you know, different sustainable products as the future takes hold. Another really cool thing about Tel Aviv is the beaches. I think it's voted as one of the 9th best beaches in the world. It's a very, very cool, casual beach town. It's the 2nd largest city in Israel other than Jerusalem. And it's located on the Mediterranean coast. And Tel Aviv actually gets over 300 days of sunshine a year. So it's a very nice, warm climate. The next place we ventured off to was Nazareth and the Sea of Galilee. So very important, again, religious sites for multiple religions in a very, very beautiful countryside. So we first went to Nazareth. You can see myself and my husband, Nick, standing out, looking out over the entire city. It was very, very beautiful. And actually on the bus ride up to Nazareth, we just passed some camels that were just walking alongside the road, which is so funny and crazy to see. In Nazareth, some of the sites that we got to see and check out was the Church of Annunciation, which was very, very beautiful. And Nazareth for Christianity is really kind of the birthplace and the home where Jesus grew up. So it was a very interesting spot, very beautiful architecture and mosaics that you could see. So the next place we went to was the Sea of Galilee. And it's interesting. So the Sea of Galilee is the largest freshwater lake in Israel. It's about 64 square miles. It's nearly the size of Washington, D.C. And it's Israel's largest supply of fresh drinking water. Which is interesting. When you take a look at the photo on the right, that's the Sea of Galilee. And I guess I was very, very surprised to see that, you know, they get their drinking water from here. Of course, you know, they go through a lot of processes to get it purified and clean, but I was very perplexed at just kind of the consistency of the water and not being able to see through it was very, very interesting. But a very important religious site as well. And it was really cool just to check out and see. It was very hot outside, even hotter near the water, which was very interesting. And then the last place we really went to outside of the school was Masada and the Dead Sea. So some of our friends from the cohort, we kind of took a day trip at the very end of the trip out to Masada and the Dead Sea. And along the way, we had to stop and ride some camels because we had never done that before. So that was fun, although they were very, very smelly. But it was definitely fun. So after riding the camels, we got to Masada. And Masada is an ancient fortress in southern Israel's Judean desert. It's on a massive plateau overlooking the Dead Sea, which is very cool. And it was built around 30 BC, so extremely, extremely old. And really, so you kind of either take a cable car or you hike up the mountain, which that's kind of what we did. It was very hot, and looking back, I wish I took the cable car. But really at the top, you get to King Herod's palace. And even from 30 BC, you can actually see some of the mosaic tile that was in his Turkish style bathhouse, which was absolutely incredible. After doing that hot hike, we treated ourselves with a float in the Dead Sea. So the Dead Sea has the lowest elevation and is the lowest body of water on any surface in the world. So it's very, very unique. And it has an insane amount of salt. The water is very salinous. So everybody and everything that goes inside the water floats. It's seriously like magic. It's crazy. But what's also very interesting is, you know, although you can float, it's a sea that doesn't have anything living inside it because the water has so much salt. No fish or plants can live in the water. Only bacteria can grow at the bottom, but no living animals or plants in the water, which is very, very interesting. But that feeling of floating it's pretty incredible and very, very unique. And the last thing I wanted to share with you guys is the food and the culture. So by far, you know, I've had the opportunity to travel a lot, and I can't say enough good things about the food in all of Israel and the culture as well. So this is a look at our last meal in Israel with the entire cohort before flying back home. And this is totally typical for Israel. So many options, a lot of fresh, like Mediterranean or Greek style food. Absolutely delicious. Some of the best food I've ever had. Here's a few more looks at some of my favorite items. On the left, you have like a ravioli with pesto. The Jericho green beans in the middle are some of the best I've ever had. And I thought just even the simple artistry they did on like a cappuccino at the hotel was just beautiful. So, you know, really can't say enough good things about the food and the culture and the people. And then another really cool thing in Tel Aviv, they have these markets where artists come and share, and you know, there's a lot of music and people are selling really, really cool, interesting goods, fabrics and textiles. And so I shared kind of just a photo of a piano bar as well. So all in all, such an amazing trip. It was absolutely incredible, and you know, really just kind of opened my eyes to an entire new side of the world that I hadn't visited. And actually, the trip to Israel inspired my husband and I to go back to the Middle East, and we went to Turkey a few months later after that, which I can share in maybe another show and tell. But as I promised, I'm going to just adjust my Zoom background for a moment so that you all can see my artifact that I got. Let me just do that. And perfect. All right. So this is a pillowcase that was handmade that I got in the old city of Jerusalem in the Christian quarter. So as you can see, there's two elephants at the bottom, and it kind of has a very large, big tree representing the tree of life. And it was just a very, very unique and very cool artifact that I found. Found many things, of course. I definitely brought back some other fun things, but this one was really, really kind of near and dear to my heart. I loved just the intricacy and the patterns on it. I thought it was very beautiful and unique and reminds me of a fantastic trip.
Katie, could you come out of screen share real quick and show the pillowcase one more time?
Yes.
Awesome. What is it made out of?
I think it's made out of linen.
Okay.
So it's pretty thick, it's pretty durable and sturdy. As you can see, I haven't put a pillow yet in it, and I need to do that. It's only been a year, but I've been keeping it really like in a nice folded position. But
how cool.
Yeah.
What a great thing to bring back. I have so many questions for you based on what you just talked about on your trip.
Yeah.
I would love to sort of go back a little bit and ask about the sustainable farming. And it's not a direction I thought this was going to take. And I'm fascinated because I've heard of people making like power bars out of crickets.
Yes.
What's going on with the grasshoppers?
That's exactly right. So they're farming these grasshoppers, turning them into protein powder. And it makes a very good sustainable protein of an alternative. And once it's like processed into protein powder, of course it has no taste or no additive smell or anything. It's just grasshopper protein powder. But it was interesting the day we visited. The gentleman, the CEO, came out with a box of dead grasshoppers, and they were really big, probably like that big. And that's what he passed around at the end. And some of my classmates legitimately just popped the whole thing in their mouth and ate it.
Did you see where the grasshoppers were raised?
We did not, and that was definitely proprietary. So okay. It was something he didn't want to share with us. That I guess we kind of were asking him a lot of questions around the process and what makes it better, because a lot of people raise grasshoppers or crickets for protein. Like what sets him apart. And he talked a lot about how they're raised in the cages that they have, and all of the process was very hush hush, and that was their secret sauce. So we didn't get to see it, but did just get to kind of cruise around the kibbutz or the farm, and some people ate some grasshoppers.
All right, well, maybe someday very soon when you walk down the snack bar aisle in the grocery store, you'll see grasshopper bars from Israel. Keep an eye out. What's one thing that really surprised you about Israel?
I would say maybe just how green it was. So in Tel Aviv, obviously it's the Middle East. So in your mind, you kind of only see desert sometimes. And of course, as you saw in the pictures from Masada, I almost had anticipated the whole country was going to be very desert-like, but I could not have imagined even Tel Aviv being a high-rise city, having so much green space, and even Nazareth, like it was just I think all the greenery really, really was just surprising and so beautiful. The amount of different terrain in such a small country was amazing.
Yeah, I'm also sort of thinking about that beautiful marketplace picture that you showed. Israel, by its location, is at a real crossroads between Africa and Asia and Europe, and I wondered what kind of a sense you got for all the cultures that mingle in a place like that.
Yeah, so I think Tel Aviv is probably the greatest example of just being a melting pot in a metropolitan city full of just all kinds of people from all over the world. Very, in some regards, similar to a New York City, really big sky-rise buildings. Israel actually has, I think, per capita, some of the most startup businesses in the world. So it's a small country, but Tel Aviv specifically is very, very diverse. So you can kind of see, a lot just in terms of demographics, just so wide, as opposed to somewhere like Nazareth, which is about 60% Muslim or Arabic population, and about 30% Christians. So that has like a little bit different tone. It's very much more Arabic. And Jerusalem is another example of, those sectioned off 4 quarters. So it really kind of varies from where you are in the country, but Tel Aviv is a great example of just kind of a melting pot of everybody.
Yeah, that's so neat. I'm sure that's reflected in the sorts of goods and food and things you might find in a market.
Yeah, I think, when I think back to the market, I would absolutely say you could see everything there. Lots of fruits, lots of different types of meat, like more like Greek of like lamb and like gyros and lots of kebabs and lots of candy, and they like sweets too, like baklava, of course hummus, and then really big into just apparel as well. It was definitely a big hotspot for apparel. You could get jewelry and bracelets and shirts and hats and pants, really anything you needed at this huge market. It would take hours to walk through, and so crowded, but it was just amazing.
Did you, besides camels, did you see any wildlife or nature?
I'm trying to think back. Okay, so yes. So other than camels, which were very prevalent once you got outside of Tel Aviv, because it's such a large city, one of the most seen animals in Tel Aviv is cats. Mm-hmm. So they have an abundance of cats. Cats are everywhere in the city, which is so interesting. Like you couldn't walk 1 mile without seeing probably 50 cats. They were everywhere, which is so unique. And I never really found out exactly why there were so many cats, but they were everywhere, and it was really nice. Actually, I have a photo of the gentleman, like security guard, that was outside of our hotel, bending down and scratching like the resident cat outside the hotel, because they're everywhere. So they're very nice to them. I think a lot of the locals feed them and take care of them, but they're everywhere.
How interesting. Yeah. If for some of our younger viewers who are watching today or might be watching this recording after the event, what is sort of the primary reason you might choose to visit Israel? I mean, what kind of a traveler would be really interested and move Israel to the top of their list?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is just if you're interested in world religions and theology, you can't go to a better place to learn about all of the religions, and has so much, religious impact, the country itself. So I think anyone interested in the study of religion or religious themselves, I think it's an incredible adventure. Anybody interested really just trying to put themselves in a very unique place. The Middle East sometimes can get a bad rap of, maybe being unsafe to travel to, but it's absolutely not. And I think anyone that wants to either go out and have fun in Tel Aviv and check out the beaches and the history of Jaffa and the port cities there, or anyone that wants to venture up and go to Nazareth, or even wants to take a camel ride and go visit Masada. So anybody interested in history, it's a fantastic place to go. Anybody interested in kind of water, I think even the Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea itself offer up 2 very unique bodies of water to study and to check out and look at. So yeah, I would say any of those reasons.
If you were used to swimming in just a North American inland lake, how can you describe the Dead Sea? How is the Dead Sea different in the way it feels?
Oh wow, it felt very the water felt very silky, if that makes sense, from all the salt, and it was the wildest feeling, because you kind of wade out in the water slowly, you get acclimated to the water. We were lucky, it was very hot out. We had just finished that hike, so we were nice and hot. The water temperature felt good. but very like silky feeling. And then you got out to a point where you could lift your legs up, and you would expect to have to kind of like wave your arms and wade in the water. And you put your legs up and you kind of just rolled back on your back, but didn't go under. And it was the wildest feeling ever. And we played in it for a while and just kind of tried to turn over and see if we could sink on our stomachs, and it didn't happen. Like, it was very interesting. Another very interesting thing that you'll see at the Dead Sea is the mud at the bottom of the sea. The country processes the mud and uses it for a variety of like cosmetic purposes, because it's said to be very good for the skin. So at the Dead Sea, you'll see people walk around with the mud all over their face and their body. They'll cover themselves. They actually sell the mud of the Dead Sea right down at the seawater. So people will buy it and just cover themselves head to toe in this mud and just be walking around. And it's totally normal there, which is, I mean, a sight alone to go to Israel to see.
That sounds like an experience to put on a list for things to do someday.
Yes.
That is fascinating. What a fascinating part of the world, and not even to mention sort of how it puts it all the history into perspective. Everything is so much older than it is in most places, and all places really throughout North America. Just a different scope of time.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about traveling in general, is just being able to see different points in time and how different, life can be and is outside of the US.
That is a great place for us to wrap this up. And I'll only add that I really became interested in history in school when I got to experience some of it live, like it sounds like you did in Israel. And I'd recommend it to any student. There's so many opportunities for history to come alive through visiting places like Israel, or some place in your own community where you can see examples of the ways things have been done in the past. So cool. Katie, we'd like to end all of our show and tells with a question related to where you're going to go when you are freed from your house and airlines are open and the world is ready to be explored again. What's on your list?
Yeah, I think South Africa will be next on the list for us.
Fantastic. What draws you to South Africa?
A lot of the animals and going on safari, and also just seeing Cape Town and the mountains, and again, just kind of learning about a new culture and experiencing something I've never done before.
Absolutely. So cool. Well, I hope you get to go on that trip soon. I want to thank you so much for telling us about your trip to Israel and showing us your cool pillowcase. Thank you also to our entire YouTube live stream audience today for joining us. This video, the recording of this live stream event, will be available on our YouTube channel, so make sure you check it out if you happen to miss the live stream. And please join us again. We're going to have a whole lineup this week and for weeks to come of amazing live stream events. There's a complete list on our events calendar at athome.reachtheworld.org. Thank you again, Katie. This was a lot of fun. Have a great week.
Thanks, you too.
All right.